Hello, wonderful human, and welcome to the Authentic Essence podcast. Today, I wanted to open the show with a mantra. I will not fix you, for you are not broken. I will walk with you until you see the power, the beauty, and the wholeness that is always inside of you. Today, I am joined by Dr. Liz Letchford, and we're going to do things a bit differently in this episode. I'm going to hand over to Liz to do her own introduction, asking you, what is your essence? Who is Liz Letchford?
Thank you so much, Abigail. So I am a transformational artist. Was first a scientist and a musician, and I explore the ways that the creative awakening can really help transform ourselves, our cells, and our communities through just power, the power of the voice, the power of our truth, and how to tether that to something really beautiful like nature, the heart, whatever it might be.
Thank you so much. My heart feels so full listening to that. And it's Liz's expression that has inspired conversation around when we are in our fullness. It gives other people permission to be in their fullness. So as you're listening along to our conversation today, I hope it inspires you to return home to the wisdom that is inside of you. You are your own guru, your own teacher. You will know what's right for you. Take what lands, play, dance with the energy, feel where it lands in your body as we journey through this conversation. And let this be an inspiration, knowing you have your own truth. So on that note, Thank you so much for inspiring me. I saw some of your poetry on Instagram, and that awokened the fire within me that I knew was always there. So I'd love to hear about your journey of how you made peace with your fullest expression and how you came and arrived here.
Oh boy, it's been a long journey, a lifetime. I grew up a very good girl, like very following the rules. It came really naturally to me. I was quite quiet. I loved dressing up. I had a box when I was growing up, and I would dress up in sparkles, and I never played house. I always set the space. So I love thinking about when we were young, there's clues there. So I would always create the spaces. Like me and my friends would play Barbies, and I just cared about the space. I didn't really care to play in the current space that was there. I just wanted to make the walls really perfect. And so that felt like my role as a child. And so fast forward to, I went to school, I studied the body. I was really curious about the human body and how it works. I became a clinician. I became a physiotherapist, or in America we call it an athletic trainer. And I worked with sports teams, professional, all the way down to middle school sports teams and everything in between. I loved working with the athletes. I loved learning about their being as well as their body and how that all interfaces. I got a PhD in kinesiology and rehabilitation science, so more sports medicine, more anatomy, more physiology, more how the body physically works, the joints and the angles, and I studied the body so deeply. I worked with people and their bodies so deeply that I started to realize there's more to healing the physical body than what I was taught in 12, 13 years of school, and to the terminal degree of a PhD in this matter. I was like, this isn't the full story. So I started to go into I started taking acting class actually in while I was getting my PhD, and playing with the emotions and noticing how much fear I had of my self-expression, how much fear I had of embodying these different characters. I would always choose these characters that were sad because it was easy for me to do. And my acting coach, it's so funny looking back, my acting coach at the time, he was like, Liz, you need to use your power. you need to use your like sensual power. And who I was at the time really took that as like, is this what all men see? Like, really just being like, what does this guy know? But he saw something in me that I couldn't see. And we have all been in these situations where somebody's gaze is looking at you being like, you're a sensual being. And when it comes from a person who has also represents, the male gaze, the masculine, that which wants to take it from you, I guess subconsciously and consciously protected that, shut it down, and was like, no, that's not who I am. What are you seeing? You're projecting it onto me. So about 3 years ago, I had this moment. I was doing a lot of breath work. I was in a community of people who were quite liberated, and I had what I call a creative awakening. It was crazy. Basically, I watched, my like observer scientist brain watched as my body lost control, I guess. Became chaos itself. But my brain was still good. I was like a scientist. I was literally like looking up peer-reviewed articles on like spiritual awakenings and like what is psychosis and am I autistic? And I had all these questions of like these words that we've been told to quantify and identify what is actually happening when someone's creativity comes online and their expression comes online. And we relegate it to spiritual awakening, and it looks like I'm working through my demons or being possessed by some spirit. And I fundamentally, somewhere deep down inside, was like, sure, and... in improv, we say yes, and. And so I would do that with all these religions that were trying to have a viewpoint on what was happening, these spiritual traditions, or the agnostic, atheistic approach. I would say, okay, how do you see what's happening in my body? Until I could understand it from the inside. So I was going on a wild ride, feeling like, what is happening? Like, I could hear, I could feel energy. My body was moving and orienting to itself. So I started, as any scientist would, and I took a nervous system based approach, and I watched as my body itself, almost like a GPS system, was repatterning. I was doing all of these movements that looked like what you see in maybe like spiritual dancers. And my body was moving in these gorgeous spiral lines and also shaking and also making crazy faces. Like every emotion you can imagine, I became it. And instead of demonizing it, I don't know where this courage came from. I just went full send. I was like, yep, there's no point in resisting it, I think. I mean, of course, my brain was like, what if I'm becoming the devil itself? Like, what is happening? And so, I had those storylines imprinted in me. And I finally worked my way to just watch my sweet, innocent nervous system renegotiate its boundaries, renegotiate its sensation, its sense perception. And it simply came back down to what was happening to me is my body understanding what stories have been lies told to it. And so that's a long way of saying, simply put, my mind and my spirit found bliss. And now the greatest love story of all time is those parts of me coming back, loving my body so much to remember, you are bliss. You are bliss, which is the ability to feel everything. And so now that I have no judgment on expression, or I'm working to have no, things can surprise me. I'll be like, oh, there we go. Let's go back in. But I have my devotion is to a judgment-free existence, to be able to witness myself and others, because when it's loved, when these traumatized parts of ourselves are loved, we can really make a shift and see it as this cosmic play that we're in. So started as a very scientific girl, good girl, and then kind of got domed by the universe to be like, yes, daddy, whatever you want. And then watched as that which had power over me, right? The daddy God or whatever it might be that represents my own power, was trying to get me to soften enough to become. And so I've been in a constant state of becoming, and this creative energy has moved through me. And so I think that's what you resonate with, because I see it in you as well. And so every time I'm around you, I'm like, it's so fun.
Thank you so much for just taking a moment to witness you, to drink in that. And that feels so resonant with the journey that I've been on. So to our wonderful people listening and watching, whatever stage you're at on your journey, I hope you can return to that place within your heart where you allow yourself to be in whatever season and cycle you're in, to sit with that, whether that's darkness or light, as we journey through it all. So on that journey of it all, is there anything you'd say to the people listening and watching, to the listener, who's maybe at that place where they're not so comfortable to dance, or the version of you, if you could go back and say, obviously you're here now, you've been through it, on one of those days where you're like, shoot, what is going on? How am I going to move through this? What can we do? What advice? And you will have your own wisdom come through. I invite you to pause and to allow yourself. What can you do to allow yourself? But what would you do as well? It's a dance between taking in knowledge and also being the knowledge.
Yeah. First, I just want to acknowledge your responsibility with this role of leader, teacher, we call it. It's really important. And that is what I knew back then. And I didn't have a role model who could validate that for me. So, if I were to go back, like right before, where I'm kind of being pulled back is I was in the middle of this creative awakening. And it was very scary. It was a whole new reality. My reality was completely deconstructed, and it was very like a free fall with everything. And the thing that I didn't have was a community that could understand, free of judgment. So I had a lot of people turning away from me, saying that I was in a psychosis or that I felt like a live wire. I specifically asked, like, hi, here's some articles on what's going on. All I need is a hug. All I need is a cuddle. Please just regulate my nervous system because I can't reach the ground yet. And so that is the hardest part of this experience, is the community that doesn't understand. And that's what I see myself as, almost a big sister for helping people going through this. So just validating that, understanding that many people don't have context for what is going on, and the ability to sense your surroundings is colored by whatever your nervous system has been tuned to. So my nervous system, as my spirit was taking space and residence in my physical body, that creative power, that ability to speak my truth, fundamentally didn't feel safe existing in this body, because I grew up in a world where this powerful feminine voice was shut down. Every magazine I read, it was be as thin as possible. Every part of me that wanted to say, this is what I believe in, to my parents, they said, don't talk back. And so we are told, our bodies are told from a very young age, this isn't okay. You cannot be who you are. Innocently, and maybe not so innocently, but I believe it's just from misunderstanding. So that is what I would say. I would validate the experience and say, just remember, your body has a story as well. The more you can focus on not judging and using the mind to help tell the story of the body, the quicker you're going to be able to liberate and experience the sensation of bliss that your spirit and your brain and your soul and the one that you're connected to, it knows already in this cosmic dance of being. but our bodies forget. And that's why we see these actors, I see us all as actors. Shakespeare, all the world's a stage for sure. Absolutely. And so there's this oneness, this one love, this one bliss, this one song that is playing itself out through these different instruments. And so I'm like, babe, get in. We're tuning our instruments. You want to sing your soul song? Get in. And so I wish I had someone to have told me that versus you need to sit in meditation or let's pray the demons out or whatever was happening. I'm like, I understand that's your play. Let me write my own play. And so we're giving the pen back to the hands of those who deserve to write the story, which is the body.
What word would you use to describe the sensation? It is bliss. So for our listener who's in that stage, come and play with us. Pick up your pen. You have the courage within you, the strength. And that's what I aim to do with this show, is to remind you more of who you are. For us to be the mirror that allows you to see what's inside of you, the bliss that is there waiting for you to come home. And you're not alone on your journey. We're all in this together. Feel free to message myself after this episode if anything has resonated, if you've got any questions, if you just want to have a chat, if you want to play, if you want to freestyle some poetry, whatever you are feeling called to. I am just always a message away. You are never ever alone on this journey, no matter how dark and wild it may feel. Even if it feels like you need to seep out because it's a wild ride, we are here with you, all in this together.
Bless you.
Wow, where can we take this next? So we've talked about art. I'd love to hear more about what art means to you. You've talked about your creative awakening, where you're at now, and all of that is resonating, and to me it feels so juicy. But I'm imagining for the person who's not quite there, how do we describe this for them? Maybe a roadmap, and it's going to look different for every person, and maybe it's not something we can answer, it's something that's from within. I'm thinking if you could go back to that version of you.
Art is what we are. I mean, that's it. That's all. And so we have a decision to make of what art we want to create in the world. And if you go to work every day and you sit at your desk, you are literally playing work. So the creative awakening for me was recognizing that I was playing this role. I don't know why, because I was being guided and almost marionetted, puppeteered by my fears and society's fears in order to sit nicely in the system and be just enough me that it's acceptable and tolerable for society, which is what my body needed. Don't kick me out of this place, please. I need community. And so once I realized that, I cleverly made a situation for me so that I could go away for a year, I made enough funds to help myself exist through the year, so I was privileged in that way. But so that I could realize, I'm literally playing out this script from eons ago, the script of if I'm in the room with someone, there's a script running. What am I going to say? What are you going to say? If I'm in with my family, what do I need to be with my family? My brain producers are just, and the writers are like, no, hold on. You must be good girl. And so I'm done. I've taken back the pen. I've taken back the camera. I've taken back the entire production of my life. And now I live in a musical. Which is so much better than playing work every day. Oh my goodness. And so, and I don't care what people think. In fact, what's been really beautiful is because I don't care, because I don't have this little thing in my ear of like, I did for the longest time. And I'm sure the more I expand, it'll still come back and be like, you didn't, you've never been here before. This is scary. But I don't care. And so I don't magnetize it. And so all I have is beautiful, incredible humans being like, I know that spirit. And I'm like, let's play, let's dance, let's freestyle together. And so my life is filled with creativity and the creative reimagining of even the darkest of things, even the scariest of things. It is that is our power and potency as creative artists, is saying, first of all, what is here? Can we be present with what is? Be present with all of the nervous systems in the room that are in fear, that are in denial, and without being sucked into it, but being like, I know that energy. Let me show you what it's like to walk slowly up the spiral staircase and to liberate yourself from the suffering that comes from denying this energy a place in your body. It's not difficult to hold when you don't judge it. But our restriction, our constriction comes from fear, rightfully so. My goodness, humans and bodies have been through so much, holy moly, and currently are going through so much. And so it takes people who have been privileged enough to have been isolated, to trust, to surrender to whatever the body needed in order to be held and finally surrendered to who they are, to be the leaders. And so that's where I see myself as, y'all, I had the privilege to be able to surrender so much to myself. This is what it's like. This is what it's like. And I became the big sister, the father, the mother, the brother. I became the wild animal. I became the cosmic everything and nothing that I needed when I was in the middle of my chaos and confusion. And so that is what art is for. That is what art is for. Art. When I look at an artist, I'm like, how? Why? What world are you imagining? And how do I resonate with it? And what are you seeing? And what are your gifts? And can I come along in your world? And we think about people with mental health issues. They are artists. Their art is playing through an instrument with sticky keys. And so that's where I'm like, hi, baby. How can we tune your instrument so your art comes through? Because you are a brilliant genius and you can imagine a world that is different than this current situation that we're in, where we're all fighting each other. And so let your art make art so that it can help you first, and then it will explode into this vision for a new place, a new song, a new connection with someone. It's what you dream of. And so that's it. Art is how great thou art.
Thou art. Oh, that is so just delicious. And for the people listening and watching, I wonder what wants to dance through you. What expression can you begin to play with? Is there something that wants to be known that may currently be unknown? Maybe you just put the pen to the paper, or you start humming a tune, just wherever you're at. I wonder, what can you begin to play with? And on that note of playing, you mentioned the puppets on the strings. How do you find you are able to take back that control? You mentioned starting to be your own inner family system, which is so much of the same on my journey. For someone who's there, what might we say to them?
Yeah, if you're familiar with internal family systems, it's a powerful system to understanding that these behaviors that are playing out through us are parts to a whole, but they're parts and they're characters, if you imagine, like a script or a play. I have been, with the help of facilitators, with the help of mirrors in friends and family, and I have been recognizing my characters, my parts, and listening to them, watching my belief of, I've made it. I am now the holy divine fill in the blank. And then watching as that has to be put to death and resurrected as a new iteration. So when I say I'm in a constant state of becoming, that's what I mean, where it's like today, the father energy, which to me represents, I've got you. I'm going to protect you. I'm going to give you a space so that you can create. I had externalized that because I'm like, well, I'm not a man or a father at all, so I'm going to externalize that and seek out and magnetize humans who play the role of daddy, right? And always they disappointed me because I hadn't held myself. I hadn't provided myself the safe space to exist. So I looked outside of myself so far. I went to like the cosmos. I went blasted out. I went past humanity. I went to animals. I went to poetically to try to repattern my own father and find the resonance of like who's Daddy Liz, you know? What is she like? How does she lead? How does she hold? And I watched as I like opened the can and let Daddy Liz come in. I was a tyrant, a full-on tyrant. I was awful, horrendous, because that's what my nervous system imprint of father was, shadow side of father, not my hopes and dreams of the holy godfather. It was horrendous. And so I hurt people, I hurt myself. So that's why I pulled myself out of playing that out, because I would open my subconscious and let it move through me. I pulled myself away from, let me not play this out in my friend group. So the courage to isolate, the courage to be very, very careful with who I opened this expression to. And then I filmed myself and I just watched this whole storyline play out. And so I would let my subconscious run, and I would let the poetry flow, and I would let the movements go. And then I would watch it back and I would see, oh, I recognize what's playing out. So I'd watch it with an observer's eye, more in my like everyday modern woman character of Liz that shows up on the tube, right? And goes to get breakfast. And I would watch back and say, oh, got it. Then I would take that or like, ooh, I'm embarrassed of that. And then I would take myself through a spirokinetic flow. I invented this nervous system attunement method to be able to hold yourself and surrender at the same time. It's literally tension practice embodied. So I use breath, movement, and awareness to be able to guide yourself. Out of desperation, I had no one to guide me. I was like, how am I? I'm like, oh, my breath can guide me. My tension can guide me. I won't get lost in the sauce thinking that my perceptions of what I am is going to be the leader. No, my breath is daddy. And so I came back to myself and my body of who is the president of me? Who is the mother in me? Literally, my physical body. What is the mother? What is the emperor? What is the king? What is the queen? What is the little girl spirit? What is the little gremlin? And so I was able to then understand in the context of the human body and the creative spirit, just who's playing my body, my instrument flowing through me, to be able to access, my feet, my nervous system, the hormones, my genetics, my ancestry, my nervous system, all of these, when creative energy flows through it, tells a different story. And how exciting is that? We identify with the story. We're lost in the sauce. That's us being puppeteered, because we can be. That's how brilliant we are as humans. We're all actors. Someone's pulling the strings up there. Is it you? I don't know. That's for you to decide. And so that's been the journey for me, is like, what is me? What does that even mean? And to get to a place where I'm just like, I am. That's it. I am, and I'm going to allow this dance and song to move through me. And it has been exciting, and it has been crazy, and it has been beautiful, and it has been ecstatic, and it is. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Whew. Well, it makes sense to me. That is so reflective of the journey I've been on. I love that you said earlier about beginning with the acting. I did acting at school and playing those parts. It was like, I found it so therapeutic. I don't know if anyone listening has given improv a try or acting classes. When we're playing those characters, it's like, this represents part of me that I haven't been able to express. Let me play with that. There's something hidden in the shadows and bringing it into the light. And I love that you say about the becoming. I am always becoming. That is so the journey I've been on. I love the metaphor of a rose. Seeing that we are always peeling back the layers. There's some nectar inside, and each layer is still the wholeness of the rose. And when those petals fall away and die, the rose is still just as complete and whole. It knows it has its seeds and it will grow and fall, and that we have our cycles of birth and death and rebirth. And I'm feeling so resonant with everything you've just said through my own experiences, and breath has been my anchor as well. And journaling that recently, I realized that our breath, she wants to move through us. She's waiting there for us to take that breath. To breathe her in. An invitation for you listeners to pause and be, allowing yourself to see whatever is on the inside. That it is all perfect. And if you could go back again to the different stages of yourself. You talk about the awareness, the allowing, the surrender. What has helped you to soften even more? You talk about the movement and the dance, the playing out the different parts. And I love that you have started freestyling. So let's go back again in your journey.
Boy.
You talk about your creative expression. You talked about your workshops with the improv. And you mentioned your teacher that said that. And you said that they saw something in you that you couldn't see in yourself.
Yeah.
So, again, listener, I hope that we are holding up a mirror for you to see parts of yourself that may not yet be known. So, to that version who now sees what the teacher saw, how did you then get to that stage of seeing it in yourself?
I'm gonna flow right now. Is it okay for me to do it in rhyme?
The stage is yours. Let's roll. Let's go.
Okay, let me see what wants to come through. So again, you asked like what would I tell that? Oh, I would say, I'm here. I'm clear, and I'm guiding you, my dear. I'm sweet, and I'm found as soon as you bring your feet to the ground. As soon as you dream, you understand it is all a screen. And when you can command it, that's the dream. That's the real commander, the director, the writer. And we don't understand her, we misunderstand her, but we're going to invite her to land her feet on the land that she knows is so very sweet. And we cover it in clothes. But when we receive the love of a rose, it's then we can breathe.
Just allowing that to land. It's like, so relaxed, but also tingly and bliss.
And that's what we call prayer, right? It's simply the soul's desire. It is the song of our being, and we are beautiful creatures who have language. The birds have language, the bees have language, but they're a pure flute. You know, the source creative spirit is just playing through them because it's fun. But humans, we have a choice. You know, we have a choice. We can let the music play, or we can play another role. And so when we allow that creative spirit to move through our body, that is what so many people have called prayer. And so this is my prayer. My existence is a prayer. And so, you know, we can dance around the word, but maybe there's another word to call it. But the closest thing I can think of is a prayer. And so prayers from our being can hit and resonate and start to zzz and tingle. You get those tingly feelings, right? The goosebumps or whatever you call it here in London. What do you call goosebumps?
Oh, I don't know. What would we call them? Maybe we'll have to put that to our listeners. Comment in
all the names
description or message me. What do we call them here? Maybe truth bumps.
Truth bumps, yes. The goose pimples I've heard before. I'm like, no. Truth bumps, I like that.
And wow, so beautiful. And that is the power of our art, of our poetry. When I was at a poetry event recently, sharing my words, my art, and hearing that other people come to the open mic, just looking around the room to see all their faces absorbing, dropping into their bodies, being present and witnessing, seeing how the words can be that mirror, how it can bring someone online where they may previously not have been online, where it can bring them the light in the darkness. my dear friend shared her poem with music on in the background, and it was incredible just to see the entire room switched in, dialed in, and to see the emotions bubbling up within, to know that they are safe and they are held in that container through the art. I think it's just, it allows us to be. It allows us to be.
And that's my favorite experience too, is watching to see, does this connect? You know, like, it's not about me. I had to go through, I don't know if you had to go through this in performing. I had to go through the part of me that was so starved of being seen and witnessed and accepted that I put on shows, you know? And so, but that was my body's prayer. Please get on stage. You know, who cares what you say? Just go be seen and clapped for. Like, that was the script I was running. And so once I let that run, because of course there was a part of me that was terrified of that, you know, to do it in front of your friends, to do it in front of strangers, there's totally different energies. Both are terrifying. So I did both. I went towards the thing I was afraid of. And I let that run. I let the fear come out of my body, and then I got bored with it. I don't want to just perform. That's snooze city. And so now I just sit. If I'm called forward, then I will allow the creative energy to speak through me because of my depth and my ability to feel. I'm like, okay, this is my prayer. This is the prayer of us right now. And so that's another thing to be very clear about, is the process of being seen in your gifts is a process. Whoo, boy, it's a process. And every step along the way, I was terrified. I don't want to be this. I'm judging that, or gosh, I don't want to rap, or I don't want to be a burlesque dancer. And then I was like, fine, I'll do it. And I'll do it in this safe space. Like, maybe it is going to open something in me that'll be my career and my identity. Honestly, I'm allergic to being in one box. I'm allergic to it. I'm like, I am ever changing because I am. I can't even say it. I am because I am ever changing, and I am ever changing because I am. And so because I have nothing to identify with, and I allow myself to go there, obviously that's not like relatable in modern society, but in my art, I am. That's it. In my art, in my artistry, I don't identify with anything. I will pray in whatever energy you call forward, in whatever energy I call forward. I will show you its prayer. And there's a utility in that for other people to engage with their prayer as well. Of, okay, we're here, and it sounds like, I can like hear with the nervous system, it sounds like the little boy here is being really oppressed by whatever we're doing in this space. So let me pray the words of my little boy and see if it resonates. And so to shape shift, if you will, into that space is my highest excitement. So any ways that someone looks at me and says, maybe they go to that performance and they say, oh, that's Dr. Liz. She does the little boy prayer. Yeah, that's ridiculous, right? It's like, no, I am the vessel through which the prayers are allowed to come through. It's not about me. This is just a skin suit, a sock, if you will, on my body. And so when you remove the sock, you see the soul. Hello. And so to be able to see that in one another is my personal highest prayer, because then I can play. Then I'm like, okay, you can play, you can see me, let's go play, let's go be.
Thank you so much for allowing me to see you. And that's one of the reasons I didn't feel right doing your introduction today, because I know that we go through so many different cycles, and I know we could introduce you as a wonderful coach with so much wisdom and knowledge and the power to help people to see what's within. I could introduce you from your past, but I knew that there was more to you having seen your art. So thank you for allowing us. Thank you for taking off the sock and for having the courage to just wave it about and say, this is me, I am here, breathe me in.
That's
so thank
right.
you.
Thank
and
you.
It was in that boldness that allowed me to play with my boldness. And I've been playing it with it elsewhere, but within poetry specifically, I was playing out that nice girl, let me make a poem about my healing. Oh, here's my inner child coming online to play. But then it was like, no, there's more, there's red, there's this darkness inside that wants to be seen. And I feel that you touched upon this briefly, that we're scared to play that out and how it will make people feel. And then sharing that on stage, first time I shared my poetry with an audience, I felt stark naked. Oof. It was like, people say in public speaking, oh, imagine your audience naked. I've never quite understood that metaphor, and it makes me laugh hilariously.
That's right. Like,
it was like, no, I feel naked.
That's right.
But it was having the courage to say, okay, well, here I am. You can see me like this, and I'm okay with that. So maybe we went through similar. How would you say for someone who's not quite they know that it's something they need to do, but they're not ready to make the jump, how can they find the readiness? Is it an internal, is it a sensation? You talk about the nervous system. I don't know, let's just flow. I'm not quite sure where I'm forming into the question.
Yeah, I got you. So someone's going through this, they're not yet ready to just be naked on stage. Yeah. It is a slow bloom. So my process was very, very slow, over a lifetime, and then really intense for 3 years before I ever spoke one word of poetry publicly. And so it's the biggest piece of advice I can share is just having a deep education and wisdom in the nervous system, understanding that your spirit is trying to play through you. Nature is trying to play through you. There's also other storylines trying to play through you so that it can act itself out. You know, when you like let a little kid kind of like just let them get through it, you know, witness it. We're doing that for ourselves. So that understanding took me a while to recognize. So that's important. And then practically speaking, follow your breath. I invented this spirokinetic technique because of this very thing. I no longer wanted to do traditional breath work that we see popularized today because it was blasting through to something and there was a recovery period that was required. So instead of popping me open to this wild release, which sure, opened and released, check the box, we got the release. I had to ask my body. My body was desperately asking, yeah, but at what expense? At the expense of this little inner child that is like, please, and then finally like gets overpowered so that you can get to its expression. I no longer wanted to do that to my inner child. And so I took myself away from any doctrine, any practice. I didn't go to any classes. And I want to permiss you to do that as well. You know, there is an inner wisdom. And from that place of everyone in me, every part of me is now trusting of myself. Now we can go and experience the wisdom of others. But because I didn't trust others, I didn't trust the guidance of others and where the guidance fundamentally came from. Because I had that deep awareness of like, oh, this is where yoga came from. This thing that's happening to my body, someone observed the awakening body and then categorized it into yoga. But I understood this person, and I unfortunately don't know who invented yoga. You know, the creative spirit did, I guess. But practically speaking, you know, give credit where credit's due. And I knew this perception is being played through my relationship to the land, through my relationship to society, and what I am creating, what I'm observing as a scientist, having a hypothesis about, and then testing it and coming up with a thesis. That's the scientific process. That is how any methodology, anything is created. So I wanted to be responsible and with every part of me to say, I will not relinquish my power to any person who has through their one instrument observed. And we're like, oh, guru, you know, like you're amazing. And yes, thank you for surrendering deep enough to have this access. And me too. I'm going to do this for myself. And that audacity, that bold statement, that bold claiming of, I am going to, with respect, not follow anybody's guidance, is what led me to finally surrender to my guidance, to see that my king is a tyrant, and to finally let that play out until it was no longer being a tyrant in my behavior in my life. I would have never gotten there. I would have been, you bowl with the guardrails up. I would have just been strike after strike after strike, never knowing that, you know what, if you let those guardrails out, you're going to gutter ball. Until you learn the gutter exists, until you learn how to avoid the gutter, and you can finally make a strike without the guardrails there. So I'm striking. Sometimes I go in the gutter and then I have to say, all right, we're not going to put the guardrails up. Or maybe I go in the gutter long enough that I need the guardrails again, and I'm going to take a class or a course with someone I trust, because I know I can feel the resonance in their body versus just my mind saying, this feels safe. Okay, great. No, this is programmable. I'm deprogramming myself to be able to listen to the simplicity of the breath, the body, understand it's also got its own wisdom buried deep under a lifetime of being tuned to fear. Recognizing that voice and then choosing my voice, choosing my truth over what any book could possibly give me.
And thank you so much for reminding us and giving us that permission slip to return to that inner compass, to let that be the juice that guides the way. And when you were saying that, it reminds me of a version of me that went on that cycle, that treadmill. The little girl within me that was hurting and wanted that love was looking for every part of me outside of me on that hamster wheel of let's go from book to book, knowing that there was something missing. Why am I not finding the answers? Why am I not finding myself in this book? And my journey was similar, of coming home to the wisdom within, saying, okay, these books don't have what I have. There's something inside. How can I go inside and find this? So to any of our listeners, if you're feeling that journey of chasing, I know in this beautiful world of podcast production, I hope today we've offered you some information, but I hope you have the sovereignty to pause, to digest, to see what lands, to allow yourself to experience yourself more deeply, that yumminess that is inside. And I hope that you can pause that consumption and that treadmill. I was on my friend's podcast and they at the end said, oh, what book or what thing would you recommend our listener? And I said, actually, let's just pause and be and digest that which we are. And so I just want to take a moment to acknowledge you for doing that and having the courage to come within and now to lead and to be the voice of saying we have it inside. So thank you.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. And what comes to me too is on that journey of self-discovery, the guardrails are there for a reason. So they're not bad. So I want to also speak the other side of this story is I have a deep awareness of the importance of the nervous system and how easily it can be convinced of stories, and how sensations in our body can be are translated by the mind in order to create our perception, which some people call our reality. And though there were many times that my body created a story that, oh, this is how the universe works, I figured it out. I had to put that to death over and over again. So I would watch what understanding I needed in order to allow this emotion to come through, this expression to come through, this thing to ultimately die. Like a rose falling and fertilizing its soil so that another may bloom. I allowed that whole process. So where we get stuck and sticky is when the egoic self, which is not wrong in any way, it's actually very important, the self you think you are, because of what society tells you, gets attached. that's really scary. I really like this one. This is bringing me joy. This is bringing me peace. This is bringing me, societal power, whatever it might be. When we cultivate a reality based on cultivate a reality seen through the eyes of that character we're attached to, we can no longer trust it. Oh, there's nothing to grip to. It's like water slipping through your hands, dripping through your hands. And so, excuse me as I just take that belief off just really quickly. And so the extent to which you can trust your inner guidance is directly related to the extent to which you are willing to sacrifice yourself and sacrifice this belief in order to then resurrect it again, in order to rise from it again. It is a constant state of becoming. It is a scientist's mind. It is truly the scientific process continuously. The scientific method is a circle. I have a hypothesis, I test it, I come to a conclusion, and then I have another hypothesis. So it's the ultimate scientist. But we have relegated science to hard facts because we have a economy, really, a culture of science that is run by people who are so terrified to not know that they have walled themselves in to say, I'm going to prove it, because that's what society uses as currency, is facts from what? From instruments and measurements? Do you know? What are the universal truths? There are so few and far between. They are tiny. There's like one or two laws, even of physics. Why do we feel so safe when a group of people say, yep, that's what we observed, so now it's a fact? No, it's not actually. It's not a fact. That's what science tells us. But that's terrifying to people who can't let go, who can't be familiar with the slippery nature of even knowledge, the slippery nature of our perception of reality. And so that, if that makes you tense up a little bit here, just maybe your path is to have a teacher. Maybe being able to experience the guardrails because you're not yet ready to get a gutter ball because of what that might mean about you. So until you're willing to be humiliated, to be embarrassed and have a gutter ball and never have a strike. I went bowling the other day. It's why it's so present in my mind. And I got so many gutter balls and I was like, whatever. Until you're able to be okay with looking like a fool in front of everyone and everything that you ever respected, you can't trust your teacher, because what are you doing this for? And so this is why teachers exist. So I want to also be very clear, if we were to let everyone say, you can trust your body, you can trust your perception, it would be madness. It would be madness. It is madness. Everyone has a microphone these days. So I just want to make sure that we really drive that one home as well, is because I was willing to be brave, listen to my nervous system, and continuously am letting go of what I think I am. I then can trust that process. I then can trust that. And so if you're just having visions and you are feeling things, make art with it, but maybe don't write a book yet until you are willing to let go of the fact that you may not be a wizard or a psychic, or you might just be a human having a creative awakening. And this is the art that's being asked to come through you. So I want to be really clear about that.
And thank you for illuminating that. And that's the beautiful dance between student and teacher. There's the proverb, I don't know where it comes from, that the teacher comes when we're ready. So if you are seeking for a teacher, I hope you can pause and sit with yourself. Is this really what I need? Or is there the stories that are playing out? Am I buying into this because it's been designed in a way to make and speak to me? And I've been in that cycle of seeing the webinar and going through it and thinking, this is what I need right now, because it was designed in that way. Maybe there was a bit that it did speak to me. And I feel really grateful and privileged that I've cultivated that trust within myself to sit with that and to be comfortable knowing when it's something that I really need and when to look out, but also when to look in. So wherever you are on the dance, so if you're craving that teacher, if you want to be your own teacher, I hope that you can find the courage to do what feels right for you as the listener. And also you said there, I just want to say, can we show the camera your ring? The compass. The compass has been such a big staple in my life of creating that alignment, that presence, and that purpose. Even though the boxes we put ourselves in may shift and morph because they're not really there.
Yeah.
I feel the compass is who I am at the core. Is that will always guide me home to my truth, which for me I feel is love. And that's what I want to do with the show. My vision is for us all to come home to that deliciousness. I was on another creative project earlier in the week and they played a really sad audio clip of someone struggling, who was in pain, who was so in this world where they were disconnected to love, and my heart just cracked. I felt so much empathy and sympathy for them. How did we get to the state where we're so disconnected from ourselves in this fear? How much magic and power would we have when we return home to the truth that we are loved, that we are all in this together? So you, my dearest friends, even though I may not know you personally, and if you would like to know me personally, please do reach out. You are not alone, and I just love each and every one of you so much. Thank you for being here and for journeying with us in this play as we're all playing and learning from one another. Thank you. And thank you for being here on this amazing journey. Thank you for sharing your insights, your juice, your art. I loved hearing you flow. And I hope that that has provided so much yumminess for whoever it needs, and maybe even a bit of discomfort. For me, it's been leaning into that where I want to run away and meeting those parts of myself that feel like I want to go offline. I want to freeze, and I think they call it fawning in the nervous system side.
Freeze fawn, yes.
So I see we're running out of time on the show. We've got 3 minutes left. So can we do a quick fire rundown for someone who's new to the nervous system of the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system?
Yeah, so your nervous system is your brain and all of the nerves that are connected to it. And so there are states. We've heard the words parasympathetic and sympathetic. A sympathetic state that you're in is aware, alert, and it is an important state to have. So to not demonize one or the other. Parasympathetic is our relaxed state. It's a different brain state. It's a sensation in your body of relaxation, where most of us haven't ever rarely are able to obtain a parasympathetic state. So that's where all these modalities come in. You've got massage, meditation, breath work, you name it. Music is one of my favorites. Poetry is a really good way to do that. What often limits us from being able to attain that parasympathetic state is the noise in our mind. And that is why I love poetry so much. They've done a study on babies, actually, and they spoke poetry in some, kind of, iambic pentameter or whatever kind of rhythm. You have this like da-da-da-da-da, there's this cadence and there's rhyme. The brain, when exposed to poetry, is anxiously waiting to what is the next word, because it's going to rhyme. So it's almost like putting the brain on this cycle track and being like, all right, you stay here. We're going to just kind of keep you here for a moment while music or energy or a nervous system attunement can access the physical body. So really the gatekeeper to our physical parasympathetic state is often our beliefs and our mind. And so poetry is a really cool way to kind of hypnotize the mind for a moment.
Beautiful. And now we have less than a minute left. Is there any final words you'd love to share with our beautiful listeners?
I'm just so grateful for the space that you created. And if there are any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. I'm available please follow me on Instagram at Liz Letchford, and then keep an eye out in the space, because there's going to be some really cool events and opportunities coming forward that if you find yourself in the midst of or desiring your own creative intelligence, this is a really safe space for you to experience that and be around people and community that can experience that as well.
Thank you so much. So much love to all of you. Come and play, and thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more.